as it says this
Oh,
webinar
okay.
is being streamed.
Yeah.
There we go. We're good.
Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to introduce my friend Evan Gregor. And for this presentation, that will be in part interactive and in part him just introducing you to um, stress, procrastination, solutions for stress, procrastination, and calming the inner critic. Go ahead, take it away, Evan.
Thanks so much, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you. Pleasure to be with you live, or if you're watching the replay. So the intention for today is give you, primarily it's going to be a shift in perspective rather than just like a bunch of stress management techniques. I think the shift in perspective is going to help a lot. It's going to help you stop fighting yourself by experiencing and feeling where this procrastination and resistance and stress is coming from, kind of getting to the source of the problem. And I would love it if anyone feels comfortable with it to work one-on-one with someone as well today. We had a great experience with that in the last time we did this. So just super quick, I'm a bass player living in New York City. That's what I do. And because that's a stressful thing and I'm very perfectionist and imposter syndrome and all those things, came into meditation and other forms of practices of that world to help deal with that. And so I got a lot of benefits with that and got real into that, started studying closely with some teachers, got certified in different techniques. And so it's become a part of my life to also facilitate that type of work. Just a few examples of how this work is very powerful. This is one example of someone I worked with the same type of process we're going to be doing today, of on a practical level, how it helped confront and resolve the stress and anxiety around debt. And you could see that this person was able to get out of debt and move into a completely different situation, not because I'm a financial advisor in any stretch, but because by overcoming the stress and shame and guilt around it, you're then able to move forward with the actions of getting the financial advice and doing the things, right? And this was someone that recently was able to get on a flight for the first time in years after just sort of a crippling level of fear and anxiety. And that one about a issue for 9 years was a health issue. And I'm just bringing these up to let you know that this tool and this shift in perspective and the same thing we're going to use today can have real practical, real world results, not just like a temporary feeling of lowering stress. And so the idea for today is that when we get a different perspective on this, that can have a bigger and more significant impact than just specific techniques that kind of manage it in the moment and bring it down. But coming at it from this angle, any other techniques you learn along the way, breathing, cognitive therapies, it's all good. I think they work more effectively coming at it from this perspective. And so we want to give you that shift. One thing I always like to bring up before you do any type of inner work or emotional work is to just give yourself a moment, because it's real important for anything involving looking at your emotions or stress that you feel as safe as you can. So just give yourself a moment to take a deep breath. Remind yourself that we're not going to be doing anything like pushing, but you never need to or should do anything, any type of practice that you don't feel comfortable with in your body, where it says, I'm not sure we want to do this. So I always like to give you that moment to make sure you honor that. You go at whatever pace feels right to you. You take what feels right and useful to you. And if it doesn't feel appropriate, it's just you take your authority to just disregard that and find something that does. Because you being safe is kind of key to anything in this world of inner work, emotional stress management actually helping, right? So this shift in perspective is I'm going to suggest that one of the biggest causes of stress and inner conflict is what I'm calling a repair mindset. And the repair mindset, it refers to perceiving all of these thoughts, feelings, emotions that make you feel uncomfortable, stuck, unpleasant. Things like procrastination, things like I want to do this, but I feel afraid. My body's not letting me, I'm tensing up. It's very easy to look at those experiences, because they are unpleasant and they do seem to be stopping you, as these are bad, negative things, almost like they're viruses in our system. And what we need to do is learn tools to get rid of these bad feelings. Fear is bad. How do I get rid of it? Procrastination is bad. How do I get rid of it? Or spiritually transcend it? Whatever. It's all the same attitude of repair. Then you likely judge yourself or see yourself as in some way broken or defective, or something's wrong with me, because why do I know I need to do this thing, but I keep feeling resistance for it? Something must be dysfunctional, right? That's the assumption. And then I need to do more work on myself in order to fix something that's broken. That's the mentality of like repairing a broken car. If you think about some of the books, self-help, or other seminars, therapies, tools that you might have used, just take a moment and see, have you looked at them as these are tools to help repair these things that are broken, they're wrong, they're defective, and they're self-sabotaging? You might even say, well, yeah, of course. Isn't that the point of all this? And I'm going to submit that, yes, we want a different result. Something's not quite working the way we want it to. It's not, but that's very different than something being broken. So I'm going to suggest that the antidote to this repair mindset is what I'm calling relationship mindset. And the relationship mindset sees the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, even the most unpleasant ones, even the ones you're sure, like, this is just a bad thing, I got to get this out of me. It's actually there for a reason. It has a function, it has a purpose. And these are things that you are in a relationship with, right? A thought appears, a feeling appears, we get to relate to it. You can say, I hate you, I want to get rid of you. You can say, what are you? I'm curious what this is, right? So you can choose to listen, give space, be curious, be accepting, wonder, where is this fear? Where is it coming from? Oh, I feel procrastination. Huh, that's interesting. What's happening inside me? I want to discover what the truth of that is versus assuming, oh, because it's stopping me, I'm going to give it a name called procrastination. Assume I know it's bad, I know it's wrong. Sometimes we even think we know it comes from my parents or it comes from whatever, but I need to get rid of it. I need to fix it. And that's a very different mentality because it implies that something's broken. And I'm submitting that you're not broken no matter how much things do not seem to be moving forward and how much stress that seems to be causing. And I hope that we can prove this to you in something that you can feel and experience directly. So I'm submitting that every form of resistance, fear, stress I am experiencing is actually based on a beautifully functioning system that's trying to keep you safe. And it's not semantics. It's not like, well, let's just call it a nice thing, but it gives no results. Who cares? It's something that will transform your results. If you can see something, if you see someone as, hey, I'm trying to protect you, I want what's best for you, and I don't think it's good for you to do this thing, that's a very different conversation than I'm broken and I just need to figure out what's wrong with me. I am curious if anyone can relate to these because resistance shows up in different ways. There's the obvious ones we call procrastination. But sometimes it's like I go to sit down to do it, I just feel distracted. Sometimes always, somehow magically something urgent pops up. You can literally start to feel uncomfortable, lose your energy. You could share if you've had any of these happen for you, but I want you to take a look at these and notice if there's any patterns that you might not have even thought of, as they might be a sort of inner language, an inner something in you saying, we don't want you to do this because we don't think it's safe. Things that you would typically just say, oh, I'm lazy, right? That is the problem we have where we just judge ourselves for it. So the quick and dirty version of what this is doing is when you touched a hot stove for the first time as a child and it hurt, hopefully that didn't actually happen to you, but the mechanism is the same. Your body and nervous system learn that's dangerous. And it has to go into the body and the nervous system so that you don't have to think about it. You don't look at a stove and go, oh, I remember intellectually that it was hot. It's a body response. And the body has amazing ways to just make sure you don't even go near it. It can stop you from even getting close to it, right? You've had deep fears where you can't even think about something. So it is doing that to protect you. Now, the thing is emotionally painful experiences, rejections, you had a bad audition, you had a bad teacher in college, you had someone tell you you're never going to amount to anything, you started a website and it failed. That can trigger, not always, doesn't have to do it, but a lot of times it does. It triggers the same mechanism that says, hey, if I try to start a business again, that's like touching a hot stove. We're not going to let you do that. We don't want you to experience that level of pain, and then there might be deeper emotions underneath that. So that mechanism is perfect for a hot stove because never in your life do you need to touch it, but you might want to be more visible. You might want to present who you are, negotiate a price, right? But underneath negotiating a price is, oof, remember the last time we tried to do that and I felt like I lost students or I alienated someone and it just crushed me inside, right? And it's like, we're never going to let you do that again. anything like this, anything that you feel procrastination for, can be bumping up against this type of pain point. And as I mentioned before, it's easy to now make a story about yourself. I'm lazy. I just can't get it together. I'm missing something. I'm just not the type of personality who can hustle or sell, or that's for other people, or the world is stopping me, or it's unfair because of X, Y, and Z. Even that is a protective mechanism. None of those judgments about yourself are accurate, however. You're not failing at overcoming these obstacles. You have a nervous system that's protecting you from what it learned was painful and even potentially dangerous. Again, it's not a cognitive thing. You can tell yourself in your mind through affirmations all day, hey, it's safe to make a sales call. But if it burned you in the past and there's emotion underneath that, that's the mechanism that's stopping you. It's deeper than your mind. You're functioning perfectly, just like a car that has a computer that won't let you go past 80. It's not broken, it's very sophisticated. It's doing what it was programmed to do. So how do we actually shift this? Well, let's explore this together. And what you can do is bring to mind a situation or event that you've been procrastinating on, feeling stress around, or similar. And so we'll pause at this moment here. Give yourself a moment to kind of just chew on that for a second. For some of you, it might be instantaneous. You might be feeling it immediately. And feel free to put in the chat if you have a particular thing that pops up. And also, because that was a kind of quick burst of information there, just seeing if what we talked about there just felt true, resonated on any level, that maybe you don't totally believe it, it's okay. But just if there's a sense of, I could see how that makes sense. I could see how I could relate to what's happening inside me, this procrastination. Oh, interesting, right? It may not be what I'm trying to, it may not be the way I'm thinking about it. So we've got a lot of good things in the chat. Okay, I'm getting much clearer on very good reasons I've been procrastinating and feeling depressed based on yesterday's session, which is the same material. I'm glad to hear that. That's encouraging. It encourages me to keep doing this. Stress and procrastination connected to preparing to go to the venue with the price for the possible gig and that whole negotiation process. Absolutely. Feelings are like machine safety mechanisms. The latch that you have to depress by locking the bowl down, start the food processor. Car not starting unless it's in park. Very good. Yes, the car won't let you start because that's actually a good thing. It at least perceives that as a good thing for you. So you're insisting, I need to go do this, but something in you saying, it's not safe. We don't want you to do that. If you fight that machine, you can't win because it's you. You're literally fighting yourself. So when we talk about, you hear the cliche phrase of befriending yourself. This is like literally a concrete version of what it is to actually befriend yourself. It's to make a relationship with these parts of you that you think you don't like or that you think are against you, to realize they're not. The idea of self-help may suggest I'm broken and need fixing. Yes, it often can, right? And there's beautiful self-help practices for sure and tools that I use from that. So how I relate to this in music, practice, teaching, client sales, and business. The feeling that I'll screw something up, I'll make someone mad at me, it's too hard, why even try, I'll never make progress. Yes, those are common themes. And the shift here again is we're looking at those and let's actually go through this now, because looking at any of those, some of those, reading those may have brought up something that you can relate to. You can't do this wrong. You just think of anything that you feel some stress or procrastination about. Just the world right now, right? It can be the price of gas right now. Notice your reaction and judgment towards the emotions and yourself. Just notice it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to fix it. Just kind of relax and go, yep. There's that feeling of, I don't want to do this. Here's the judgment. Oh, that's procrastination. Why can't I? Any thoughts, feelings about myself? I can't believe it's been all these years and I still can't get over this. Just notice that dialogue. And then just relax, meaning you're not looking for a tool to stop that conversation. just being aware that it's happening gives you that little bit of distance from it. Okay, it's just seeing what's going on with you. And then just be open, right? Except you don't take my word for it. Don't believe anyone about anything when it comes to this stuff. Just see if, even as a thought experiment, can you be open to the idea, I wonder if this feeling of sabotage, that I'm calling sabotage, maybe there's something behind it. Maybe there's a protective mechanism there. Maybe it believes it's there for a reason. If you think about all the enormous, sophisticated things in your body, right? You have trillions of cells dividing and dying and multiplying and beating your heart and doing all this stuff. Is it likely that that system is just not intelligent and just messing with you? It's a pretty sophisticated thing. There's nothing more sophisticated on the planet. And just seeing if even that, just being open to that, just starts to shift the vibe in the room a little bit. And now, with that feeling of procrastination, stress, see if you can actually lean into it, meaning rather than trying to get that distance and go, I don't like that. How do I get that away from me? In the amount that feels comfortable towards you. Think of it like you're moving towards the feeling. Like, hey, you're upset. It's upset. It's protective, or it's tense, or something is tense. That's why you're here today. Something is not feeling like aligned and flowing. There is an inner conflict, something saying, I want this, but then this other part going, no, I don't think that's good for us. Lean towards that. Go, hey, let's talk, right? Instead of me trying to push you away and figure out what technique is going to get rid of you, let's talk. It's good. It's a metaphor for life too, right? Difficult relationships that don't seem to be working so well. Possible questions you might ask, right? What are you protecting me from? What are you sensing or feeling is dangerous about this? What do you believe would happen if we went towards this or got this goal, got this result? Because what some of you have shared in previous calls or in our mastermind that Chris and I do, you start making progress and something goes, uh-oh, right? It could be anything. Well, if I make this money, then I'm gonna have to deal with taxes, or my health insurance changes, or if I actually have this, website and clients coming in, I might have to say no to people. How do I manage that, right? And when you see that and just look at it like, oh, it wants the best for me. It's not just saying we don't want you to have this because we don't want you to be happy. It's so important to the difference, right? And so just as you're exploring this, just take a deep breath, and I want you to notice that simply by being in this position of listening, kind of being curious, has the level of tension gone down at all in your body, in your emotions, without you even thinking about it or trying to do it? Just the fact that you are engaged in this, hey, what's going on in there? Has it changed the tone at all for you? Are you less focused on that conversation about yourself and judging yourself because you're more focused on, hey, what's going on in there? What are you afraid of? Do you feel maybe like you're exploring what's happening within you now? Is there any sense, even in the back of your mind, like, hey, maybe this is going to get to the root cause of something, rather than, hey guys, you feel stressed, here's a breathing technique to bring down that stress. Meanwhile, there's still a war going on inside you. So let me know if this is resonating at all. If that's true, that you are noticing any of that. I felt conflicted about making progress in my life, and I think it's about realizing and accepting that I have some heavy burdens that may keep me grounded. Yes. Very freeing. Very good. What are you protecting me from? Translate, what is the force inside me protecting me from, and why? Or What is some part of myself protecting me from, and why? Yep, very good. I'm happy because I can feel like a good parent, teacher, listener for myself. That's amazing, right? And that's how I think of it. I think of it, you hear this all the time. The most important relationship is the one you have with yourself, right? And like self-talk, but this is not self-talk in your head, right? What a lot of that stuff ends up being is you have all this inner conflict, and in your mind you're just trying to say affirmations, but we want to talk to the actual thing that's stressed and afraid. So very good. So that is the mechanics of it. That is the foundational shift from this repair mindset to a relationship mindset, right? This is sort of a encapsulation of this process, which can of course go much deeper, and that conversation can then lead into, okay, you don't feel safe, what would feel safe? These parts of you start to actually get on board, and as you feel safe and it feels safe, it's like, hey, we found something that feels comfortable. And you have millions of things in your life that you don't have inner conflict about, and you just do them. That's the only difference, right? And you could be conflicted about anything. If you're really like concerned about how you look, or and you stress about what to wear, that's a real experience for one person. Another person just throws on whatever, they have no inner conflict about it, right? That's the only difference, is something in that one person feels there's fear, or there's past experiences, or shame, or guilt, or whatever. So I'd also like to invite anyone who wants to work on something and actually go through this process with me and kind of have this conversation. We had a great one yesterday where it was like they really shifted on something they were feeling, self-sabotage. Okay, cool. I'm trying to talk to what I see as a cement wall. That's amazing. Yes, it can appear like that so many times, like a cement wall. And that's why it is there. This wall keeps me from being more creative. And that's even seeing a wall, which can sometimes feel like, I've seen that before, by the way. I've had that one personally. It's like, oh my God, a wall, right? But first, just be like amazed and fascinated by the fact that you're getting symbolism at all. That means the communication is happening. And yes, the more curious you are about the wall, the more this can unfold. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because it's not 100% by any means that like you ask this thing questions and it just gives you responses. In some ways, the wall itself might be the answer for now. Like it's sometimes the communication is just no, or a wall, it's not okay yet. And that's where you can experiment and say, okay, am I trying to push too hard? Is my idea too much? Right? What would make that wall be less of a wall? Is there a way around the wall? What's the wall? What's the purpose of the wall? You can kind of explore it in that way. And I think we have a hand. Let me see. I thought I saw a hand raised, but now I don't see that. Yes, okay. Excellent. Emily, okay, beautiful. Let me bring you up. Let me stop the screen share. And she will join us in a second. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Happy to be here.
Oh, good. Me too. Glad you're here. How can we help you today?
Oh, right. Okay. Trying to boil it down.
Oh, take your time.
What the thing that comes up that my mind is afraid of is it's afraid to take on any sort of complex, sort of adult, more adult job.
Okay.
Like, for example, right now I'm pet sitting. It's really simple. And I used to like work with kids with emotional difficulties and do
Oh, beautiful.
stuff like that where it required a bunch of different stuff. But that was my hot stove because my brain, um, it was so perfectionistic and
Mm.
the job sort of never ended and I was indecisive about things. And so my brain experienced that as like the biggest stress ever. And now I'm trying to get it to like go do, a 3-month training program,
Mm.
or even it's struggling with me on like even little things, getting up in the morning, and it's just like, man, we never answer all our emails, we never call, everybody back. You're struggling with the basic stuff in life, and you're not going to be able
Mm.
to handle this higher level of stuff. So, yeah, the fear that my mind has around I won't be able to juggle things is stopping me from doing more and more and making it, yeah, really tough. It throws so much resistance to just saying yes to living life every day.
Mm.
That yeah, that's what I want to work through.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah. Now, I think a good place to start with that one is the expectation. I'm curious about the level of expectation and judgment you feel on. Let's imagine that you and your, mind and nervous system are like separate, like you could separate from each other in this kind of framework we're talking about with relationship here, right? And so it's got one thing it's doing, which is sounds like possibly some burnout or whatever it overwhelm it experienced, right?
Hmm.
And on your side of it, the part you're really identified with, which is like, I want to do, but there's these things I want to do, and I want to get back into X, Y, and Z. Right. And I'm curious about your level, because you mentioned like perfectionism, um, your level of expectation and what you think you should be doing, and the level of frustration you're feeling on your side of it. What does that feel like for you?
Ah, yeah. There's there's a ton of frustration because I feel like I'm not even. My demands on myself right now are kind of super simple, and I'm still failing at those. Um,
Mm.
so I'm living a relatively simple life now, but even that, this resistance makes it like a debating argument over every little thing, going to the gym, answering emails, whatever it is. It just, it got so stressed out that it's just like, I think what it learned in that very stressful job that I had was no matter what I do, it'll never be enough. So
Yeah,
what's the point? Like my
exactly.
my emails snowball, my voicemails snowball, and I'm never able to catch up with them. Life is always going to be like this. So I'd like to crawl in a cave and stay under the covers. Um, which, the logical part of my mind is like, that's not what I want to achieve in life. And uh, yeah, like,
Okay.
yeah, that's the gist.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate. So if you're okay with it, you can just kind of tap here on your collarbone, just some providing some touch
Yeah.
to your body, which is very helpful in a lot of ways when there's this sort of just literal, like physical and mental sense of fighting and overwhelm, right? And noticing that that felt and maybe even feels true, this argument of it's never gonna work, right? And that's a really uncomfortable one. And so as best you can, try to not fight against that for a second, and instead lean into, okay, what did I, when I was imagining or saying, okay, what it is to succeed or win, not fail, was there some really high level demanding sense of like, okay, it gets all done, everything's sorted, the emails are all answered, I'm totally on top of the game all the time? And noticing that maybe it's true that that never happens. A big part of the conflict though is believing that that's failure, because you can just imagine, and you don't have to imagine because you've lived it, the stress every day of comparing, well, I should be able to do this, I should get all this done, when it seems to be this endless mountain. And so it's the comparison to, oh my God, like it's never getting done. That thought, that idea that it should ever be done, or I should be more on top of this, is such a high demand. And I think everyone here knows that they've never had that day where they did everything and everyone was happy and every email was answered and the taxes got done and then the accounting was done that day and everything was in a bow. And the interpretation of that being of that meaning that it's all futile is such a key stress, right? Because if the definition of winning is conquering all that, and it's actually not possible to conquer that, because the nature of life is there's always more, there's always another thing, there's always growth, there's always something, then you have set up a game that you literally can't win. And so, of course, half of you is saying, why bother? Why would we participate in a game that you can't win? And try looking at that and going, say, you know, I see your point. I see your point. And could it be possible that that's not what it means to win? And that not being on top of things is not necessarily failing. Now, of course, you want to be able to do what you want to do. And it's not, so again, it's not a semantic thing of just, well, let's just say it's not failure and call it a success. Meanwhile, we have no change, right? That's not what we're doing. We're looking for the way we're defining success and failure, actually creating more of the inner tension and conflict of part of you going, you're never gonna be able to do everything. And so just kind of keep breathing, noticing that tension that's there, and see if it's okay to acknowledge, you know, just like all of us have at one point, there may have literally been too much going on at that point with the job and the demands that you had on yourself. It may have literally hit the point where it was, oh, that's too much for us. And that's not failing any more than you you drive a car to the point that the gas runs out. You go, oh, it's a failure of a car. My car is a failure. No, that's just, okay, we learned that there's a point that's too much. And the big one that I keep hearing, you can tell me if this resonates at all, is that situation may have been too much, which is something you can kind of learn from, and okay, we can find where we can back off. But it may have hit you in such a way that goes, you know what, life is too much. This is how life is, and it's too much.
Yeah. That is what's happening. And the challenging part is there's so much proof, right? Like this
Yes.
resistance plus the sort of indecision and disorganization of my like ADD multiple concussion brain. It's like, well, I have so much evidence that you can't handle all these things. Yeah.
Yes. And without diminishing that, we just want to explore if there's a possibility that that becomes self-fulfilling, in the sense that if you start something with everything in you going, you know what, life is too much, so why bother? The energy is already in a contracted, like, we're not here to help you succeed place. Its attitude is already, this is going to be too much. Like, let's try to stop you because you're just going to be disappointed. And so of course it's not, of course it becomes self-fulfilling in that sense where it goes, yeah, we want you to not do this, right? We
Yeah.
want you to not try because trying sucks, because trying equals failing.
Yes.
Now, the trick is to notice that underneath that is, we don't want you to feel like you failed. That's its essence, right? Its essence is not, you suck. We don't want you to do anything. We don't want you to be happy. Its essence is, that feeling of failing sucks, so please just don't try. How can we stop her from trying? And if you can access it in any way, see if you can look at that and go, oh, wait, maybe even thank you, right? You don't want me to try, and you're sucking my energy down because trying equals failure. And that, all that is just the beginning of the conversation. Because as long as it's like, I got to push through this. Okay, I'm going to wake up. I got to get out of bed. I got to do this. And it's going, don't even do that. Right? But it's not because you can't. It's because it says, just don't try to do things, basically. Right? Trying equals failing. And see if you can just kind of lean into that and go, I get it, right? We have tried to do things and it hasn't worked. And I know that you decided that the best way to keep me from feeling that pain again is to say, can't win, don't try. That's the smartest, best way. If something's job is to say, we don't want you to feel disappointment ever again, that's a very efficient way for it to do it. And you can say, okay, I get that. Now, if I'm willing on my side to give some concessions as well and say, is there anything we can do, or maybe even we're already doing, that we can acknowledge that I'm clearly succeeding at, right? I came on this call, I raised my hand, right?
Yeah.
There are clearly things that will let you do. And the part of the trick is to not judge those as insignificant, right?
That makes sense.
Good. And working with it in this way, it's like, I don't want to feel failure either. But if we keep fighting each other, we both lose, right? Because part of this sort of inner reconciliation process is letting it know, I'm also not, it's never going to be acceptable to me to just stay in bed all day, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we have to find our middle ground that we're both okay with. Because it also needs to know, like, hey, I'm not going to just bow down and just like never do anything again. So this relationship needs a little bit of tweaking, but I'm happy to I respect you. I respect what you're doing. You don't want me to fail. You don't want me to feel bad. And the more I hate you for stopping me, the more it doesn't just goes, okay, I guess we have to, crunch down even harder. And so just thinking of any small task that you can ask it, hey, would it be okay for us to do this one little thing? And not push it past that, and it might say, okay, but don't judge yourself so much for it, right? and notice a tendency to go, well, it's just all I did was answer an email. I should be doing this 3-month intensive program. It goes, oh, okay, she's going down that road again. We better shut it down, shut the thing down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead, look at it like anything else, any muscle you overtrain, there's a rehab process, right? If you run a little too far and a ligament gets torn or something, there's a time where, yeah, you can't even really walk normally. But if you're pushing, why can't I run? Why can't I run? It's not conducive to this sort of repair healing process, which has an organic flow to it, right? Just like, hey, okay, let's not push ourselves to do the thing. Let's build this muscle back. And please be open to the idea that it's not just a happy thought, that through this you can actually build stronger than you were before.
Yeah.
Because this time you'll be working with it and not kind of pushing. I mean, I'm a pusher, right? I've pushed myself and then paid for it. And it feels like you're slowing down when you start to work with this thing. Yeah, but I wanted to be doing like this 3 months ago. But you'll be doing it in a way that you can sustain day after day after day after day.
Can I share something that's happened to me in that process?
Please do, yeah.
Um, so I've done sort of some uh, discussion with these parts before, and I've had some like buildup of, oh wow, I got it to agree to go to the gym every day and
Okay, cool.
answer 3 emails every day. And then once I had that going for like, I don't know, a week maybe, it like snapped back. It like was going, well, if you expect me to do this, then eventually it's going to get, you're going to build on this and it's going to get more and the expectations are going to get higher. And so it like saw where I was going with it and it like
Yes.
sucked back like an amoeba. No, amoeba is not the right word, but anyway, um, an anemone that like gets a sea anemone that like sucks back into its little rock. Um, so how do you deal with setbacks like that?
Beautiful, yeah. It doesn't necessarily right now feel like it's part of the process. So, in other words, it's not on the board of directors with you as a collaborator. It's okay, I got you to go to the gym. She's just trying to get me to do as much as she can. And it can sense as soon as she has the energy again, she's just going to barrel through. Right? And the more it's like, no, I want your input, right? To this part of you that we think of as like, oh, it slows us down. It's like, the more you bring it into the process, hey, is this okay? Is this enough? Is this too much? I want you to work with me. It'll take a minute for it to believe you, right? But the more it feels like it's actually involved, the more it won't have to feel like, okay, we need to do these things to shut it down. The more it's a relationship that is interactive, it basically feels heard. And interestingly, sometimes that's all it needs. Sometimes all it literally needs is to be asked. And it goes, oh, okay, as long as you're aware. Because my job is to make sure you don't burn out like that again. And so it's on very high sensitivity, right? So it's more quick to pull back as soon as it senses that momentum. So the more engaged it is, hey, is this all right? And the more it's sort of valued, right? Like if you think of yourself as the CEO of this company, right? And this, you're talking to the safety department, right? The risk management people who are more boring and don't want to take the risks and just like, okay, you're part of the team. We need you too. I find that process becomes much smoother and less prone to like, okay, I got a burst of energy, I got to do everything I can today while I'm feeling good, and then the next day it pulls back in a big way. Does that make sense?
It does. What if you're checking in with risk management and they're just vetoing everything?
Okay.
At a certain point, it's like, well, that's not reasonable. We can't be an adult uh, that says no to all responsibilities.
Right, right. That, yeah, in those cases, it definitely needs more just straight up like time spent with it where it can basically start to feel some sense of safety again. Because what can happen to any of us with anything is it locks into this position of like life is unsafe or just being is unsafe, right? In which case it's more about kind of spending time with that and helping that, kind of like an injury in some ways. It's sometimes we want it to go faster, of course, but seeing that, okay, if it's that shut down, it's not always particularly open to like as much conversation as much as it needs more um, like attention on it in such a way. It's like, okay, you really you really don't feel safe, and the more I'm trying to push, that's the challenge of it, right? The more I want it to go faster, that's the very thing that makes it go, okay, so we don't get a chance to take a break here. The only things, don't assume that that means it has to take super long and that, okay, so I'm going to be like this, for 5 years where it doesn't want to do anything. It's just looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, giving it time where as best I can, my intention is not at all to make it do anything, but instead to give it like permission to be closed. And the more permission it has to be closed, the more it ironically starts to go, okay, maybe it's safe to relax a little bit. I'm not sure yet. Let me try a little bit. Right. Oh, okay. Nothing happened. Right. It's kind of like that. It's like really baby stepping, and then it can pop open, which is, it needs some space to do that if it's totally um, shut down. And there's different things I would recommend for that too. Like one thing like EFT is the tapping thing I use a lot, where it's all about just helping to calm down the nervous system and really the parts that are very contracted and stuck. Um, is that at least helpful and
Yeah,
conceptually at least?
yeah, it definitely is. And I've heard about EFT, uh, and I've heard good things about EFT. I'm definitely interested. Yeah, my
Yeah, I have a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel that you can just tap along with as well. Not safe to be in my body, I think, is the one that has the most views.
yeah,
um, so I'll put that in the chat as well.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. It's really helpful to hear how you talk to this part and stuff. And I've been dealing with shutdown, the the yeah, injury demanding shutdown for a long time. And so
Mm,
it is scary of like at first I thought I'll give it time, I'll give it space, and yeah, months turned into years.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's scary at this point. Like, is this thing going to be something I can negotiate with, or is it a hostile negotiator? And and I'm just gonna like, I know that like just forcing my way past it entirely isn't gonna work. So I want to develop this relationship, but
Good. Yeah.
it asks, it demands a level of not being challenged that yeah, I don't know. I think maybe at some point it feels like it's asking for a perspective shift,
Hmm.
like there's something that me as the like adult or whatever needs to be able to tell it to comfort it, and I don't know I don't know what those things are.
That's
But
really well said. Yeah, and it's just like a young child. It's more the environment than any like words, right? It's that environment of you're okay, meaning I accept you as you are, versus I'm trying to do this acceptance technique so I can make it do what I want it to do. And it's not easy because of course you want it, you want to do what you want to do. But that's kind of the art form of it is, okay, how do I access, okay, what it is to be present? And a technique I like sometimes is to actually personify it, to see it as something that you feel compassion towards. Like if you like animals and you picture a wounded dog, it's like, come on, will you run already? It's been, you would come at it with a different, like, yeah, okay, it needs a lot of time. Or if it was abused, it wouldn't be like, get over it, to a dog, but we do it to ourselves. So sometimes actually seeing these parts of us as personifying it or turning it into an animal or something that naturally puts you in a space of, oh, okay, well, how would I be? Not like the words are kind of irrelevant because these things in us don't necessarily speak English. they are like energetic, right? So it's like, if I see a wounded dog, what's that internal posture I take? What's that sense of how would I be present with that? How would I pet it and just like, okay, I need to just be here with it until it starts to feel like, okay.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. Personifying it into an animal, that gives me something that inspires a better natural reaction. And I loved how you put that. Let me accept you real quick so I can get you to shift and fix everything. That's
Yeah,
totally what I do with it.
I mean, we all do that for sure. That's human nature because we want to do the stuff we want to do, right? And these things feel like they're holding us back, but the more you explore that, so I'm glad that worked because that's what I'm in this thing I'm writing. That's the first step I'm doing is like, okay, personify it because that seems to help. As soon as someone sees themselves talking to their like young niece or their daughter or whatever, it's a different tone than, oh, this injury, right? This damn injury, how do I get rid of it? It's like, no, something's hurting, right? Like, how do I be with something that's hurting? It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, excellent.
I want to jump in real quick.
Yes.
Thanks, Emily, for coming on and sharing. And I have to jump off the call here in a second. But Evan, you can leave it open as long as you want. I want to take a second to invite anybody that's on here if you want to share something in the chat.
Yes. And oops, sorry, Chris. I don't know why I did that again. My bad. I was trying to get you on the spotlight here. Yes, and I'm also going to let everyone know, feel free to share anything in the chat. I'm going to let you know about what Chris and I have as an offer if you want to explore some more of this. So we have a workshop that's called Calming the Inner Critic. It's a class that goes deeper into this with some guided exercises that can walk you through it. And you can buy that. We'll put a link in the chat for $27. And we also have something called the Music Biz Mastermind, which if you are part of that Calming Inner Critic course is something you can watch as well. If you're in the mastermind, you basically can see the other things we've done. So you could watch that course if you want to. That's another way to get it. And so the mastermind thing that Chris and I do, it's a program for anyone here, anyone who's a performer, teacher, freelancer of any kind. We actually have people who are not necessarily freelancers either. Chris has a very clear, actionable roadmap that can realistically increase your income, as we've seen it with some people, to 20% or more in months, because it's a concrete system. It's a way of looking at, where do I earn, how do I earn, where am I blocked emotionally. We do some of this work in that as well, and process to get clarity on your vision, goals, actions. And then we do live calls like this, but obviously it's a smaller, more intimate group. And really the nuts and bolts of it is you get these sort of tactical tools, like this is what you say to the promoter, right? These are the sales and marketing things you do for your students, or how to get more students. And there's a course in there about online teaching, the tactical side. Then we also do this type of inner work for the procrastination and stress and things that come up around that. So that's a beautiful combination. And you can do a month with us. We have, if you join this month, you'll get at least 2 more calls, live calls in August for $7. So you can pay $7, try it out for the month, be on 2 calls with us, watch the inner critic course, and cancel if you don't want to stick around. So I would highly recommend it if you got value out of this type of work and what Chris does on his channel and other things. So I wanted to make sure you knew about that.
Yeah, and I put the link there in the chat for again the 2 things that Evan mentioned. One is just the course for calming the inner critic. That's $27, or the membership, and we have a $7 trial, limited time $7 trial. I'm not sure if this link that I posted, Evan, if that's the right one for the $7 trial. There's okay, yeah, you got to use that coupon.
Yeah, you type it in. Yeah.
Yeah. And that coupon we'll probably leave it up for today, maybe another day. But if you want it, you got to just take advantage of it.
It looks like this, and here you type in 7 trial, and you'll hit apply, and you'll see that. And so because we had someone ask, like, does it end in August? 30 days for $7. So calendar date is irrelevant.
Yep.
You'll 30 days for $7.
Yep. Yeah, and that way you can access all of our courses, different courses. It's not just for business. These things, as you've just heard Evan coaching Emily on. I mean, for me, these apply to me in terms of definitely my business. You know, sometimes I'm just feel overwhelmed, stuck. Even the thing David put in the chat about, like, you know, nervous and anxious about negotiation. Anxious about charging, anxious about dealing with clients or family members or just friends or community, nervous around interaction with people. If you're nervous around, maybe you're looking to make more connections. Maybe you're looking to ask somebody out and you feel stopped around that, stopped around making money, stopped around charging more, stopped around launching a new initiative, practicing your instrument, health. You know, a lot of us, I know for me, I've been stuck with feeling issues around exercise, dieting, things like this. The idea of being able to move forward on these things where you've been historically stuck for a long time. I can certainly say that for me, number one, I consider myself high functioning, but also I consider that these things have been paralyzing to me and big hindrances. And I haven't fixed it all. I don't think Evan would say that he's fixed it all either.
God, no.
It's a work in process, but I do see the fruits of this. I do see being able, you know, like this week, like being able to make sales calls and know that I've got another few $1,000s in revenue that I can count on, and the relief that creates. You know, making progress with health, in, you know, relationships. You can't put a price on how valuable that is. And so if you want those things and you have got a sense of how helpful Evan can be on this particular topic, and if you would like my help in the areas that I'm able to help with, then try out this offer. That's all I'm going to say. I got to jump. Evan, I really appreciate you. You can wrap this up however you want.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end it.
Oh, you're going to call? Okay, you're going to call it.
Yeah.
All right, great.
That was great. Thanks so much to everyone for being here, and for Emily for being willing to kind of work through that and show how that process can. I think it makes it more real for people. And like I said, those examples in the beginning, whether it was, you know, getting on an airplane or getting out of debt, it's a similar process, right? There's this parts of us that are afraid, feeling fear and resistance, and when you learn to kind of navigate that and work with those parts, become curious and, you know, personify them and see what's actually happening here, then you're not just waking up trying to push through, okay, I got to force myself to do these tasks and these behaviors, and okay, maybe if I want it bad enough, right? It's not really like that. It's much kinder to yourself, and it's actually quite interesting and fascinating, to me at least, the things that come up, the things I learned about myself. Wow, I didn't know that was going on in there, right? and the different things it can bring you in all sorts of different ways. Yeah, so I think there's some more chats coming in. Oh, great. I'm glad that was helpful. Thank you very much, everybody, for your nice comments and feedback. I will leave that open in the chat. And I'd also just, yeah, for anyone who wants to, if you have any questions about that class or the mastermind itself, I am happy to answer those as well. I will stop the recording and stop the stream. Thanks again, everyone, for being here and for watching.